With Obama.
Barack Obama's tried to
Barack Obama.
Hey, here, Obama.
From Barack Obama.
We constantly hear his name whenever we tune in.
Obama's answer.
Democratic frontrunner Barack Obama's life.
The reason that he's considered such a big deal is simply because he's black.
But is the media's coverage of Barack Obama really affecting our opinions about him?
Neither one of us can point to one thing Barack Obama has done for African Americans.
Well, Barack Hussein Obama.
And are we really concerned about what his middle name is?
What is wrong with people that bring up his middle name?
Because his father was Muslim and named him Barack Hussein Obama.
What they're doing is they're linking him with a loaded image. It's unfair to do such a thing.
Well, of course, it's patently unfair. Unfortunately, Obama's been laden with a name that causes Al-Qaeda problems.
Now, right there, see, right, you said bin Laden and then Al-Qaeda.
America's chickens are coming home to roost. Barack knows what it means to be a black man living in a country and a culture that is controlled by rich white people. And Hillary ain't never been called a The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a three-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America.
And what about his pastor? Is this the great upset that everyone's been waiting for? Has Pastor Wright become Barack Obama's big make-it-or-break-it moment? Since YouTube seems to be the great escape for the average guy or girl to want to express himself visually, I decided to put together a documentary that would be a contribution to the phenomenon. So, today's topic: how did Barack Obama's speech affect the opinions of the YouTube community? It's kind of cool.
We the people,
so let's check out some parts of the speech and see what our fellow
YouTubers
YouTubers had to say about it.
221 years ago, in a hall that still stands across the street, a group of men gathered and with these simple words launched America's improbable experiment in democracy. The document they produced was eventually signed, but ultimately unfinished. It was stained by this nation's original sin of slavery, a question that divided the colonies until the founders chose to allow the slave trade to continue for at least 20 more years, and to leave any final resolution to future generations. Of course, the answer to the slavery question was already embedded within our Constitution, a Constitution that had at its very core the ideal of equal citizenship under the law, a Constitution that promised its people liberty and justice, and a union that could be and should be perfected over time. And yet words on a parchment would not be enough to deliver slaves from bondage, or provide men and women of every color and creed their full rights and obligations as citizens of the United States. What would be needed were Americans in successive generations who were willing to do their part through protests and struggles on the streets and in the courts, through a civil war and civil disobedience, and always at great risk, to narrow that gap between the promise of our ideals and the reality of their time.
I thought Barack Obama's speech this morning was a real landmark. It was the first time in my life that I've heard a major presidential candidate speak so candidly, productively, and collectively about the nation's racial divide and what we need to do to resolve it. The lesson that we should take from his speech is this: even though people experience racism individually, the origins of racism are actually structural. That is, it's our public policies that create bad schools, unemployment, poor health care, and deadly wars. Somebody definitely benefits from those policies, but it's not the average person struggling to make a better life for herself, her family, and her community. Our best chance to change our attitudes toward each other, to transform anger and resentment into unity and progress, is to change the rules that govern society.
Obama is clearly intelligent and charismatic. Nevertheless, I was initially wary of him because he had the reputation of not answering questions, just being a politician trying to get elected. No longer. I was very impressed with that race speech. I don't think anyone can say that he dodged the question. It's very direct, completely intelligent. What a relief for this country it would be to have such a bright guy in charge.
I chose to run for president at this moment in history because I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges of our time unless we solve them together, unless we perfect our union by understanding that we may have different stories, but we hold common hopes. We may not look the same and may not have come from the same place, but we all want to move in the same direction.
So he continues his speech and explains how he's born of a father from Kenya
And a white woman from Kansas.
And how he's married to
a black American who carries within her the blood of slaves and slave owners, an inheritance we pass on to our two precious daughters. I have brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, uncles, and cousins of every race and every hue scattered across 3 continents. And for as long as I live, I will never forget that in no other country on earth is my story even possible. It's a story that hasn't made me the most conventional of candidates, but it is a story that has seared into my genetic makeup the idea that this nation is more than the sum of its parts, that out of many, we are truly one. This is not to say that race has not been an issue in this campaign. At various stages in the campaign, some commentators have deemed me either too black or not black enough.
This is what this is about. And what we black, I wish Bill Clinton was here, so I would apologize to him for you black folks. Now, I mean, see, you black folks tricked him. You went in that big old black pot and said, here, white boy, you black. Huh? And then you went back in that black pot and said, here, Obama, you ain't black enough. What kind of fool is you? Huh? What kind of fool is you? Huh? You, the Ku Klux Klan did not say Obama too white. You did. And so if Bill was here, I said, Bill, I want to apologize to you.
So we understand his personal connection with diversity. But what exactly did he have to say about the man that he called pastor for the last 20 years?
I have already condemned in unequivocal terms the statements of Reverend Wright that have caused such controversy and in some cases pain. Did I know him to be an occasionally fierce critic of American domestic and foreign policy? Of course. Did I ever hear him make remarks that could be considered controversial while I sat in the church? Yes. Did I strongly disagree with many of his political views? Absolutely. As such, Reverend Wright's comments were not only wrong, but divisive. Divisive at a time when we need unity. Racially charged at a time when we need to come together to solve a set of monumental problems. 2 wars, a terrorist threat, a falling economy, a chronic healthcare crisis, and potentially devastating climate change. Problems that are neither black or white or Latino or Asian, but rather problems that confront us all.
I hate to be the one to say I told you so,